Thank you for joining our campaign to save lives on our roadways. And today we're taking a deep dive into the critical and dangerous issue of distracted driving. And it's a problem that affects all of us. Sadly, back in 2009, a young woman named Casey Feldman was tragically killed by a distracted driver while in a crosswalk. And that loss has left a lasting impact on her family, her friends, and all of our communities. Instead of allowing this tragedy to fade away, her family, led by her father, Joel Feldman, a lawyer from Philadelphia, they've joined forces with experts from Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, law firms across the country, and behavioral scientists to create a science-based presentation aimed at changing the attitudes and behaviors of drivers, particularly teenagers. Since the launch of this program, the End Distracted Driving program has reached over 500,000 students and adults nationwide in over 45 states and even into Canada. And this powerful message is designed to resonate with young people and to shift the culture around distracted driving. Now let's talk about this. We would all agree that drunk driving is dangerous and you should not do it. I think we would all also agree that distracted driving, being on your phone, texting and driving, we would also agree that that's also dangerous and you really shouldn't do that. If I ask you, would you ever consciously choose to drive drunk? Your answer, I hope, would be absolutely not. It's terribly dangerous. But if I ask you, be honest with yourself, have you texted and driven at the same time? Have you been distracted by eating a meal or doing makeup or changing the radio or something, a pet in the car? Have you been distracted and driven? If we were honest with ourselves, most of us have probably done that. Now, let me ask you this question. Which do you think is more dangerous, distracted driving or drunk driving? The answer might actually surprise you, particularly for young people. For young people, they are 6 times more likely to be injured or killed from a distracted driver than by a drunk driver. And yet, most of us do drive while distracted. So that doesn't make sense. Why would we choose to do the more dangerous thing? Probably day after day after day. You drive down the roadway, you see so many people distracted. And I think people don't realize just how dangerous this is. And that's why we get into the numbers. Think about distracted driving. There's really 3 things happening if you're doing that. 3 strikes. Number 1, your eyes are off the roadway. You are looking down at your phone. Number 2, your hands, or at least one hand, is off the wheel and typing on the phone. And strike 3, your mind is distracted. You're thinking about the message you're sending or whatever you're doing on your phone, rather than your mind being alert and on the road. So 3 things that are going wrong. Eyes off the road, hands off the wheel, mind off of driving. Whereas the drunk driver, on the other hand, while not to excuse it, it's still dangerous. The drunk driver is at least looking at the roadway with their hands on the wheel. Now, they're impaired for other reasons. Texting and driving is 6 times more dangerous, particularly for young people. People don't realize how dangerous this is. Car crashes are the leading cause of accidental deaths among people between the ages of 5 and 24. Teenagers are 3 times as more likely to be involved in a fatal crash than somebody over the age of 20. And nearly 60% of teenage crashes are due to distraction. 60%, more than half. So think about it. If we eliminated the distraction, we could eliminate more than half of crashes involving our teenage drivers. Think of what a nice reality that would be to curb that high level of crash just by taking away the distraction. Something so simple, just putting the phone away. I'll give you a real life example of that. Back to Casey Feldman. She was just walking to her summer job in a beach town. A cargo van driver, looking down at the GPS for a split second, came up on an intersection, didn't realize that Casey was in the crosswalk and struck her. Just never saw her. Terrible accident, but all due to that single small moment of looking away. That slight moment of inattention is all that it took. A lot of distracted drivers will give excuses. I was just changing the music. It only took a few seconds to send that text. It was only one text. I'm a good multitasker. I can do a lot of things at once. But in reality, that split second looking away, if you've looked away for even 2 seconds, you have doubled your risk of being in a crash. And that few seconds can matter. If you were traveling 60 miles per hour, going down the highway, in 4 seconds, you have covered 360 feet. more than the length of a football field in just 4 short seconds. Think of all the danger that can happen in that massive space you've covered. Let's also talk about what it means to be a safe driver. Some people will say, I'm a safe driver, I've never been in an accident. So maybe those other people shouldn't text and drive, but I'm safer than they are. I can handle this. Well, are you safe, or are you just lucky that you have not yet been in a crash? Because I can assure you, just because you've not been in a crash does not necessarily mean you're safe. There's another study, 80% of drivers would describe themselves as being above average drivers. Think back to your math class. The average is kind of the middle, right? Some are above average, some are below average, but average is kind of in the middle. Well, statistically, half have to be above average and half have to be below average. That's what average is. Well, 80% think that they're above average. What that means is that people overestimate their own ability. They think they're safer than they statistically are. So when you overestimate your own abilities, what that also means is that you're doing things that are more dangerous than you realize. You don't realize how dangerous it is when you're on that phone. Just because you're hands-free does not necessarily mean that you're safe. Studies have shown that when your mind is distracted, even when you're on a hands-free call, there were studies that they put a bunch of cameras and sensors in a vehicle and they watched the eye movement of the driver. One on a hands-free call, one completely not distracted, completely focused on the road. And what they found with those cameras is that the field of vision, what that driver was looking at in front of him, was substantially wider when they were not distracted even by a hands-free call. And what that means is when your mind's distracted, you're less alert. You're not noticing things around you as much as if the phone was put away. So don't confuse hands-free with distraction-free. It's still very dangerous and important. When you're distracted, you are not able to drive defensively. Back in driver's ed, we all learned about defensive driving. You're expecting the unexpected. You're expecting that that dog and that child on the sidewalk might come out into your path. You're expecting that the oncoming car might try to change lanes or somebody's going to run a red light. And then when you expect the unexpected, when that thing happens, you're a step ahead and you're better able to address it and to try to keep yourself safe because you've anticipated that that dog might run out in front of you or whatever it is. But when you're driving distracted, you don't have the brain power or the magnitude to drive defensively because your mind is elsewhere. So you can't drive defensively when you're distracted. And this is something you can do even as a passenger. Speak up. 90% of drivers said that if somebody spoke up in their car and asked them to put the phone away, or very politely said, hey, can I send that text message for you? Can I dial that number you're trying to dial so you can focus on driving? 90% of people said if somebody had just spoken up, they would put the phone away. It's very powerful. Even as a passenger, you have the ability to help with this problem by getting the phones put away. Distracted driving is not just a personal issue for me or our firm. It's really a public safety crisis that affects all of us. Every time that you choose to put the phone away and drive distraction-free, you are choosing to protect not only yourself, but your family and the lives of all of those around you. By practicing defensive driving and by speaking up when people do this, we can all contribute to safer roads and public safety. We hope you will join us in this movement. We want to honor the memory of Casey Feldman and countless others by ensuring that distracted driving truly becomes a thing of the past. Our phones are becoming much more a part of our lives than they ever were before, so this is becoming more and more dangerous than it ever has been. All the more reason we need to speak up, put the phones down, and be safe. Together we can all make a difference, one safe drive at a time. We thank you for watching, and please remember, drive safely, stay focused, and speak up for the safety of everyone.